Let's have a go at expanding some brackets. When we're asked to expand an expression, what they're really asking is for us to rewrite this expression to mean exactly the same thing, but without the brackets. Brackets are sort of a neat way to condense information in the expression, and we want to expand it. We want to expand this out of brackets. So let's give that a go. I've got some steps that are going to help us. First up, we want to write out the question. Our first step here tells us we want to always draw bubbles and arrows. Let's see what this means. So the first thing I want you to do when you've got an expression like this is to get a pen and start drawing some bubbles or some circles around some of the terms in the expression. The first bubble we're going to draw is the term outside the brackets. So here we've got a 2 and I'm going to circle that. Then we're going to draw a circle around the first term inside the brackets. So here we have a 3x. Our next term is a 4. But importantly, it's a +4. So when we're drawing our bubbles, if there's a sign that comes before a number, we're going to include it in that bubble. So this plus is before the 4, so it goes in the circle with the 4. There we go, those are our bubbles. Next, we're going to draw on some arrows. So the arrows are going to go from the bubble outside the bracket into the 2 bubbles inside the bracket. So we're going to do one arrow from this bubble to the first term in the bracket, and we're going to draw another arrow from the term outside the bracket to the next term in the bracket. So all the arrows start from this term outside the bracket. Now we're going to do some multiplication. So this bracket expression really is hiding a secret multiply sign here. This expression is saying 2 times by 3x plus 4. So the brackets bundle the 3x plus 4 together, 2 times all of that. What we're doing by expanding is we're saying this is the same as 2 times 3x plus 2 times the 4. This is what the bubbles are going to help us do. So our first multiplication is the 2 times the 3x. So if I follow this arrow, this first arrow, we get the 2 times by the 3x. And I'm going to write this out while I get used to doing this. So with this multiplication, we multiply the number bits together. So we've got a 2 times a 3. So we're going to get a 6 here. And there's no x here, so we've just got the 1x. So this goes to 6x. And then we're going to follow the other arrow. So we've got a 2 times by, so the arrow means times by, 2 times by plus 4. 2 times plus 4 is plus 8. Of course, plus 4 and 4, plus 8 and 8 are the same things. We don't really need to write the plus, but it's actually quite helpful for bracket expanding. I'll show you why now, because actually this is our final answer. So this expanded is just these two things put together. It's a 6x plus this thing here, and we've already got the sign here, so that's fine just to write as is. So 6x and the plus 8. This expression expanded, 6x plus 8. Let's try that on another expression. Let's now expand this expression. Here we have 6y times by minus 3 plus y. So again, we've got some brackets, they're being multiplied by the 6y, and we want to expand the brackets. We want to take away the brackets and basically have 6y times by each of the terms in these brackets, fully written out. And we've got a y now, not an x, but don't be scared by a different letter. We can change x to be anything, so you might see these questions with A's or B's. Literally any letter of the alphabet is fine. It's the same thing as doing it with an X, just in disguise as another letter. So first off, let's write out the question. So our first step is we're going to draw our bubbles and arrows. So our bubbles go around the term outside the bracket, and then the first term in the bracket, remember including any signs that come before the number, and then the next term in the bracket, again including any signs. So we always include signs to the left, or the ones that come before the thing we're circling. Then we're going to draw our 2 arrows, and they both come from this bubble outside the bracket. So we've got one arrow going to the first term inside the bracket, and then another arrow going into the next term in the bracket. Now we're going to multiply along the arrows. So we've got a 6y, following that first arrow, times by minus 3. So let's multiply the number terms together. So we have a 6 times minus 3, which is minus 18. And then we have this y. This term doesn't have a y, so we just move over this single y here. So be careful to include the minus signs when you're multiplying the number section of our terms. Let's follow the next arrow. So we have again our 6y, this time times by plus y. Okay. So let's multiply the number sections together. So here we have a 6 times by, this sort of has an invisible plus 1 here. So plus y is the same as plus 1y. There's an invisible plus 1 here. 6 times plus 1 is plus 6, times the same letter symbols together. So we have a y times by another y. Y times y is y squared. So being really careful here when we've got a y in both expressions, when we're timesing them, it becomes y squared. That's a common thing people miss. So we've followed both arrows. This leaves us with the answer. I can just write it from here. We have minus 18y plus 6y squared. And that is this expression expanded. This and this mean exactly the same thing. They're just written a little bit differently. We've got rid of the brackets, so we've successfully expanded our expression. I should say that step 3 on our tip says simplify. And actually, we can't simplify this expression anymore. We have a term with a y and a term with a y squared. We can't squidge them together anymore. This step's included for expanding brackets more generally, so we'll see if you watch the next video if you're interested in expanding double brackets. We'll see when simplifying becomes important. But for here, I'm happy that this is as simple as I can possibly write it. This is our answer. Let's do a final question. So here I've got minus 4 times by x minus 1 in the brackets. So I'm going to draw on my bubbles, so around the term outside the brackets, including any signs before it, around the first term in the brackets, and then the next term in the brackets. This one's got a sign before it as well. And then we do our arrows coming from outside the bracket to each term in the bracket. So we take our minus 4 to the x, and the minus 4 to the minus 1. Now we multiply along the arrows, carefully watching for the negatives. So we have minus 4 times by, following that first arrow, the x. Now you might be able to see straight away that we could just write that just as minus 4x. If we think about it how we thought about the other multiplications, we times together the number terms. So this is a minus 4 times by an invisible 1 here. So minus 4 times 1 is minus 4. This term's got an x. This term doesn't have an x, so the x goes on its own here. Minus 4 times x is just minus 4x. Then we have a minus 4 times by minus 1. These are just two numbers multiplied together, but crucially, these are both negative numbers. So a minus 4 times a minus 1, two negatives make a positive. This gives us plus 4. Putting together our answers, we have minus 4x plus 4. That is this expression expanded. That's how to do expanding when there's just one pair of brackets in the question. If you're interested in multiple pairs of brackets, have a look at the next video. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more aesthetic mathsy videos, do check out my channel and subscribe.